And law is about power. And you have to start asking those questions is, where does law come from? Where do those rules of our society come from? And women didn't have power. And we know, looking back on time, that the law had been made by men. And even, and so we know that. And it was made either in Parliament, but also made in our higher courts, because judgments in the highest courts then fed down into the legal system in the lower courts, were guided by what was decided by the grandee judges. And they were all men, and they were all men of particularly one-class background. So there was that intersectionality of power, where it was vested, and that it was. And then, of course, once I started practicing, not only did I see, and I started looking at what was happening through the eyes of a woman, and there were not that many. There were only about 4 or 5% of practitioners were women when I started. But I started looking at the law, and when I acted for women, the judgments that were being made. If you could say that your client was a good wife and mother, then you might get a bit of clemency. But if she was a woman who was breaking the rules in any way, and didn't seem to be conforming to ideas of what was good womanhood, then often women were punished even more severely. And it was that thing that women were being judged not just as in accordance with the law, but also with ideas about womanhood, the stereotype of what conformed to good womanhood. And so I mean, you saw it with poor women. The first case that I ever did, I was telling some people about it last night, was a woman who ended up being sent to prison for shoplifting, and she'd done it several times before. But it was, stealing shoes for her kids out of, the Marks and Spencers, or, different stuff. And it was because, her man had run out on her. She was left with kids, had difficulty making ends meet, and so on. And then she's in breach of a suspended sentence, was being sent to prison. And her last thing to me was, phone my friend and tell her to take my kids and to look after them for me, because I don't want them taken into care. Phone my brother and get him to see if he'll agree to pay my rent for a while, so that I don't lose my council flat. And the horror and terrors of how a life is disrupted, and not her life only, but the lives of her children. And you start wondering, well, why wasn't there sort of work being done and support being given to her, rather than jailing her?